Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to EnggAdda. So today in this video we are going to discuss about one of the important features of Spring Boot, which is Spring Profile. So we are going to discuss everything related to the Spring Profiles. What is Spring Profiles? Why we are using Spring Profiles and how we can use it. Everything we are going to discuss in this video. And we are going to create one Spring Boot application and then we'll try to implement the Spring Profiles there and then we'll try to see. So first of all, let me try to go to the next slide and try to show you what is Spring Profiles. So what is Spring Profiles? Spring Profiles is a feature of Spring Boot, or you can say Spring, that helps segregate application configurations based upon the specific environment. So when we are going to develop any applications, that application is not limited to one environment. That application can go to more than one environments like dev environment, test environment, and then finally we can release that application to the production environment as well. So Spring Profiles helps segregate application configurations, okay, based upon the specific environment without changing the application. So let's say we have developed one applications and that application is being scaled to different environments like dev, test, QA, production, okay, and the configurations of each of the environments is different. Then there comes the picture of Spring Profiles. Spring Profiles help us segregate the application configuration based upon their environment without changing the applications. Okay, so this is the real use of Spring Profiles. It helps us to segregate the configurations based upon the environment without changing the application. In the other words, we can say that Spring Profiles is a group of variables and configurations in a Spring application that we can plug in during the application startup based upon the environment, you can say. Having this, we can deploy the same application in the different environments without making any changes. Okay, so this is about the Spring Profiles, and let me try to go to the next slide and show you why we need to use the Spring Profile. So Spring Profiles helps to set the right configuration on the right environment easily. So what it means is, let's say you have developed your application is on dev, and in the dev you are using one database, okay, and the database that you are using is let's say MySQL, and its URL is something like localhost uh, dev, something like that. But when you scale your application to the UAT or to the test or QA or production, then the URLs of that database would be different, and it can be different, right? It should be different. In that case, the Spring Profiles help us to set the right configuration on the right environment easily. Okay, an application connects to the different external resources, for example, the databases, messaging systems like RabbitMQ or Kafka, or it can use the external services or external APIs. Okay, these external services connections details and the credentials are environment specific. So let's say you're using, like I have given the example of databases, that in one environment you're using one kind of database, in the other environment you're using the same database, but its URL and its configuration can be different, right, according to the environment. So this is what it is being talked here, is these external services connection details and their credentials are environment specific and may change over the time. In addition, an application setting and the configuration change with the environment. So we can see that the external services that we are using, or the database or the messaging system that we are using, it can be different based upon their environments. Its username and the password and URLs can be different based upon the environments. So how we can manage it? So there comes the help of Spring Profiles. It helps us to segregate the configuration related to the uh, any services that we are using based upon their environments. Okay, now let me try to go to the next slide and we in this video we are also going to see how to set the active profiles. So when we are going to use one of the environments at a time, then we have to set it which environment we want to use. So there comes the picture of active profiles. So we are going to talk about that as well in this video. So there's a like one way is to set through the application properties files, and second one is if you're using IntelliJ, there is an option of run or debug configuration. Through that also you can set the active profiles. Again, uh, how we can use the Spring active profiles in the Java classes. Those things also we are going to see. So there is a two option available for this. Is one is the environment that is coming from the Spring course. Using that you can also logs, or you can also use the Spring active profiles in the Java classes. And second one is the Spring active profile itself. So we'll see how we can log the Spring active profiles in the Java classes as well. Okay, and we can how we can use the Spring active profiles in the Java classes. Everything we are going to see here. So this is about the basic of Spring profiles. Now what I will do, I will try to create one Spring Boot application, and then uh, that application is basically going to manage the user profiles, or like something user details, something like that. So we are going to create a Spring Boot application where we'll perform the CRUD operations on the user, and then once that application is ready and everything is working fine, we'll try to create couple of others environment where we can move our applications, and we'll see how we have to change the specific configurations in that environments. Okay, and then finally we'll see how we can use the Spring active profiles in the Java classes. So everything we are going to see here. So let me try to create the Spring Boot application first. So here I'm using the IntelliJ Ultimate version. So directly go to the file new and go to the project, and here you can see the option of Spring Initializer. If you're not using the IntelliJ Ultimate version, what you can do, you can go to this start.spring.io site, and there it will open the same page what we can see here as of now. So yeah, once you are there, you just create the application name. So here you can provide the application name. Let's say it is a Spring Profile example, something like that, and select the Maven here. Let me try to use JDK18 Java version 17 I'm using as of now. If you are comfortable with the 21, you can use it. Now let me select Lombok and web, and here the database that I'm going to use is MySQL. So let me try to select the MySQL driver as well, and the JPA also. So these four basic dependency we are using. One is the Lombok to avoid the getter and setters, and second is the Spring Web, third is for the MySQL, and then this is for the JPA. Now create it and wait for a few seconds, load it in a new window. So wait for a few seconds. Once all the dependencies are resolved, we can start using this application. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a user management project, and we'll try to cover the basic CRUD operations there. So we are going to create the user entity, we are going to create the user repository, then we are going to create the service layers where we'll write the CRUD related methods, and then finally we are going to create the controller layer for the user. Okay, to access all the four CRUD related method that we have created in the service. So that is what we are going to do here, and once the application is working fine, we'll try to move that applications uh, to the different environments. Okay, so let me try to do that. So first of all, here go to the Java, and let me try to create this entity, repository, services, and the controllers. So come here, create the entity package, and let's say the entity is user. Okay, now let's say the user has couple of fields like private, integer ID, and let's say private string name, and then private let's say integer age, something like that. Okay, now as of now we are using Lombok, so we can directly come here to create the all argument constructor, no argument constructor, and data for getter and setter and to string. So all is done. Now if you want to create the tables related to this entity, you can come here and use the annotation called table, and you have to provide the table name. So let's say it is something like user table. Okay, so that's all. Now let me try to create the repository here. So go to this, create the package repo, and let's say it is user repo, and it should be interface. So let me try to do that. It should be extending the JPA, extend JPA repository. Here you have to provide the two arguments. Okay, one is the your entity, which is user, and then you have to provide the type of your ID. So ID type is integer, so that you have to provide here. Okay, that's all. Now let me try to create the service layer here. So directly I'm going to create the service implementation class. I'm not going to create the service interface first and then create the service implementation. Directly I'm going to create the service implementation class. So we are avoiding the service interface. Okay, so let me try to create the package first called service, and let's say it is user service impl. Okay, directly we can annotate this class with @service annotations so that its bean can be created and assigned to the application context. Now I'm just going to auto wire the user repo here. So private user repo, and now I'm going to create the CRUD related methods here. So first method is, let's say it is returning the list of user. So public list of user. Okay, and let me try to import the list here. Get all users and return the repo dot find all. So there is a method provided by JPA which is find all. Directly you can use it to return all the users from the database. Okay, so using this repository, we are calling this find all method, and then we are returning all the list of users from the database. Now let me try to create the others methods. So let's say the second method that I'm going to create is create the user or insert the user, something like that. Insert user, and here you have to provide the user that you want to insert. Now there is a save method, so you have to pass use this save method, and inside the same method you have to pass the user that you want to save in the DB. Okay, now let me try to create the third method, which is update the user. Okay, so let's say update user. So what we are going to do, based upon the user ID, we are first of all finding the user, and then we'll update couple of fields of that user, and then again save it back to the DB. So that is what we are going to do. So we need to have the ID. So based upon the ID, we'll find out the user first. So let me try to do that. Let's say user original user, something like that. user repository dot find by id. We have to pass the id here and then dot get. So we have the user, and now based upon the user argument that we are passing here, we are going to change the details of the original user. Okay, so let's say we are just going to change the name or some other fields. So we have the id, we are not going to touch the id. We have the name and age, so those things we are going to change here. So let's say original user dot set the name, and from where we are getting the name, we are getting the name from the uh, records of the user that we are passing. Similarly, we have to set the age as well. So original user dot set age, and we have to pass the age from the existing one. Sorry, we have to pass the age from the one user request that we are sending. So that's all. Now we have to save this original user back to the DB. So that is what we are doing here in the update. Similarly, in the delete, what we have to do, we have to find out the user first and then we can delete it. So paste it here. Let's say it is delete user. Now you have to pass the ID. Based upon the ID, we'll find out the user and then delete it. And then simply return that user. So we have the user now. What we are going to do, we are going to delete that user. So what you can do, come here and let's say delete original user. Sorry, you have to pass the, let me try to remove this. So we don't need to find out the user first in order to delete it. Let's say this is returning void, or let's say this is returning a string, something like that. We are passing the ID. Based upon this ID, there is a method called delete by ID. So based upon the ID that we are passing, it will find out the user and then delete it. Okay, and now what you can return, you can return a simple string saying that user with ID, let's say ID that we are passing is deleted from DB, something like that. Okay, that's all. So this four method we have created. Now what we are going to do, we are going to create the controller here. So come here, create the controller dot, let's say user controller. Let me try to annotate this class with at the rate rest controller. And if you want to keep the class level mapping, you can use the request mapping here. Let's say it is API. And now we are going to create this four APIs for the four CRUD methods that we have created inside the user service implementation class. So let me try to do that. The first one is get mapping, which is returning or which is fetching out all the users, okay, from the DB. So the method return type is list of user, and we have to import the user here. Make sure you are importing the user from entity and import the user from list. Now get all users, and what we have to do, we have to call the methods that we have created inside the user service implementation. So we have to auto wire the instance of the user service implementation here. So private user service impl, and with the help of that instance we can call the methods inside it. Okay, so first one is get all the users, and let's say return it. So what we are doing, we have created this API. If we'll go inside this method, it is finding out all the users from the DB and then returning it. Okay, so this API is good. Now let me try to create the others API as well. So the second one is to uh, insert the user. So in that case we have to use the post mapping. Okay, and let's say it is insert, and let me try to change the method name, which is insert user, something like that. And here you have to pass the user that you are going to insert as a request body. Okay, user, and then you have to call the method which was insert, I think, yeah, insert user, and you have to pass the user that you want to insert, and its return type is user, not list of user. So just change that. That is good. Now the third one is put mapping, where we are updating the user's details based upon the ID that we are passing. So you have to pass this ID as a path variable. Okay, so we are good. Now let me try to pass this ID as a path variable, and the user, based upon that user you just want to change the existing user, so that record you have to pass, or that instance you have to pass here as a request body. So let me try to use the request body here. Now we have to call the update user method, and its return type is user. Change it to the user, and you have to pass the ID and the user. That's all. Now the fourth one is delete mapping, and here you have to, let's say the API is delete, and you have to pass the ID. Based upon the ID, it is going to delete the user, and its return type was string, right? So let me try to do return type as a string, and let's say it is delete user. Okay, here you can change it to the update user. Let me try to use small update. Yeah, so we are good now. Here let me try to call the delete method and pass the ID here, and make sure that your ID you are passing, it should be passed from the path variable. So yeah, that's all. We have created the APIs. Now coming to the configuration of the database. If you'll go to the pom.xml, if you'll go inside it, you can see we are using the JPA, and we are using the BIB. We are using the MySQL as a database. So how we can connect to the MySQL database? Okay, so we have to provide the username, password, URL of the database that we are going to connect here. Okay, so go to the resource, go to the application properties file, and here you have to provide those details. I already have noted down those details, and I will also explain you what it is, and I will also provide the GitHub link of this application that we are developing as of now in the video description, so you can directly go there and use it. So let me try to paste it here. So you can see here what we are providing. We are providing the uh, data source driver class name. So it is MySQL JDBC driver. Now we have the URL, which is JDBC MySQL, and our MySQL is locally up on the port number 3306, and this is the database that we are going to create or use from the MySQL to connect with this application. Now my database username is root, and the password is this configuration, which is telling us to show the SQL command that is being fired, and these are some hibernates command. Okay, and these are the dialects. I'm not going to use the dialect here, so let me try to remove it, and that's all. Now here you can see we are using the database as user DB. If the user DB is not existing in your MySQL database, make sure you create the user DB. If it is existing, then you can connect with that. So for me, I'm just going to create the user DB. So you can see this user DB, copy this and go to the MySQL. Make sure you have downloaded the MySQL and it is up and running. You are using the MySQL workbench. Okay, so everything is configured, then only you can connect with your DB. Now here you can see the option of database. So click on it and provide the new schema. So in the new schema, you have to provide your database name, which is user DB. Make sure it is in the small case. Now apply here and apply again, and you can see SQL script was successfully applied to the database and your database is created. Finish it. And if we'll go down, you can see here the user DB is now created. If we'll go inside the user DB, there are a couple of structures are there like tables, view, stored procedures, and function is there, right? Functions. Inside the table, you don't see any table as of now, but when you will run your application, one table will be created inside the user DB. Okay, so the DB is created fine. Now, if we'll go to your application and if you'll go to your entity user, you can see here you have provided the table name, which is user table. So this user table will be created inside the database that you have created. Okay, and yeah, that's all. Everything look good to me. Go to the configuration again, and yeah, this is good. We have created the DB in the database, and everything look good to me. Now let me try to run this application and try to see. So just wait for a few seconds. It will take few seconds to make your application up and running. And once your application is up, you can up. Okay, so we are getting couple of errors here. Let me try to go up and see. So it is saying unsatisfied dependency exception. It is saying either creating win with the name user controller, unsatisfied dependency expressed through the field user service, either creating win with the name user service implementation, repo, and yeah, okay. So I think yeah, we have not configured our entity correctly. That is why we are not able to create the bean for this. Okay, so here you can see this is a class, and in order to create the bean of it, you have to annotate this with at the rate component or the entity. So entity is what we are going to annotate here because this is the entity class. And now you can see we are getting the errors. So here you have to provide the ID because this ID type is unique. So you have to provide the ID annotation here. So these two annotation you have to add, and I think that is good. And let me try to rerun this again and then see. Okay, so yeah, I think it is up and running, and here you can see the default port for the this is Spring Boot is 8080, and if you'll go up here you can see the Hibernate query is fired, which is creating the table user table. The how this query is fired because of this Hibernate format.sql is equal to true. And why we are able to see this query in the logs because of this configuration. So everything is looking good, and let me try to go to the database and verify if this table is created or not. I will go to this user DB and let me try to refresh this, and if you go inside the table you can see this user table is created. Now let me try to open a SQL script, and let's say it is select star from user underscore table, control A, and then run this. And here you can see the schema for this table is created, which is ID, age, and name. And as of now there is nothing inside this, so we are good. So this connection with the database is properly connected, and now what we have to do, we have to hit these APIs that we have created. So go to the controller layer and try to hit the first API because nothing is there, so we are not going to get anything here. So we'll try to insert one user first, and then we'll try to hit this API, okay, which is returning the list of user. So go to the Postman, and our application is locally upon the port number 8080. So make sure the port number is 8080, and then the class level mapping was API. Let me try to show you. So if you go up in the controller, you can see the class level mapping is / API. Now whatever mapping you want to use, you have to provide the additional URL for that. So we are going to use the insert, so you have to provide the / API / insert. Okay, So go to this postman and provide the insert here and go to the body, and here you have to select the raw, and inside the raw you have to select the JSON. Okay, and you have to provide the user JSON here, or user body you can say. So what all the details we have inside the user entity, that is what we have to provide there. So we have the ID, name and age. So go to the postman again. Let's say the user ID is 101, or let's say it is 1, and let's say username is Rishabh, and age is, let's say, 24. Okay, and let me try to remove this. So we are good with the user. Now let me try to change this to the post and then send it. And here in the return, in the response, you can see this user is being inserted. Here in the status you can see this 200. That means the user inserted inside the DB. You can go to the DB and cross verify it. So run this query, and here you can see the user is inserted. Now let me try to go to the IntelliJ and try to go to the controller, and let me try to hit this / users API to get the list of user. As of now we have only one user, so we'll find only one user here. So provide it, change your method type to get, and hit it, and here you can see. So every, like, these two APIs are working fine. We are not going to test the update and delete. We later on we can do that. But yeah, our application is working fine. Now our main purpose is how the Spring profile is working, right? So here you can see Spring profiles helps segregate application configuration based upon the specific environment without changing the application, right? So first of all, what we are going to do, we are going to create couple of profiles of, sorry, couple of environments, okay, on which we want to move or we want to apply our application on. So let me try to go to the IntelliJ, and as of now you can see we have only one application.properties file, which is a main file. Now what we want to use, we want to create more than one application properties file for more than one environments. So as of now we are going to create three environments. One is dev, second is UAT, and third is prod. Or what is you can create is a dev, QA and prod. So let me try to create that. So right click on the resource, go to the new, go to the file, and make sure how you are creating the application properties file is very unique in nature. Okay, so make sure you have the name like application, and then hyphen your environment name. So let's say you are going to create the environment dev, then you have to provide the dev application hyphen dev, and then you have to provide the properties after the dev with the dot. Okay, so properties, and we have created the application properties file for the dev environment. Now what we'll do, we'll put all the configurations related to dev in this application properties file. Now let me try to create the application properties file for the others environment as well. So you have to provide the application, and then hyphen, let's say QA, and then you have to provide the dot properties. Again, let me try to create for the production. So go to the file, and let's say application hyphen prod dot properties. Okay, so this three properties file we have created, where we can put the configuration related to three environments. Okay, so if you want to go to the dev properties file, here you have to keep all the configurations related to the dev environment. If you want to go to the production, You have to keep all the configuration related to the production environment here in this application properties file. Again, if you want to go to the QA, you have to keep all the configuration related to the QA in this application.properties file. Okay. So let me try to go to the application properties file, which is the main file, and let me try to move this configuration related to the database to the specific environment. Okay. So just cut it from here, go to the div, and we are inside the div. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a separate database for the div environment. So here let me try to create a div db. Okay, so when we are using the div environment, this db will be used. Again, if you'll go to the production, paste this configuration here, and let's say we are going to use the prod db here. Similarly, if you'll go to the qa, paste it here, and let's say the db that we are going to use here is qadb. Okay, so because I have the configuration related to the database only, I'm just going to change the database for the corresponding environments and then show you how it is different in the configuration for the different environment. Okay, if you have couple of others configurations like messaging queue configurations or the like third party APIs integration configuration, so you can do according to the particular environment. Okay, so go to the dev, go to the production, go to the QA. So everything we have configured here, and as of now in the application properties file we don't have anything. Now how we can select a particular environment, that is the question here. So let's say we are going to make your application up and running, and this time we don't have anything inside the application properties file. So this time it will fail to connect with the database because this application does not know which environment to use. So here either in the application properties file you have to tell this application that this environment you have to use this time when you are going to make your application up and running. Okay, so one configuration you have to provide in the application.properties file to select the particular environment application properties file or particular environment configurations. Okay, so the configuration for that is spring dot profiles dot active. Okay, and you have to provide the environment name. So here you can see the properties file for the particular environment that we have created is in the particular format, which is saying that application hyphen environment name dot properties. So the div is the environment name, production is the environment name, QA is the environment name. So that environment name you have to provide here in order to select that particular environment or particular environment configuration. So let's say this time what we are going to use is div. Okay, and when we make this application up and running, it will come here to the application properties file and then see this configuration, which is saying that this time this profile of the Spring Boot is active, which is div. Then it will go to this application properties file which is related to the div, and here it will come and then see that this is the database that we are using for this application, and then it will connect with that database and then you can use that database to carry out this application work. Now as of now we don't have this dev db in the database created. Okay, so if we'll come here you can see we don't have any. If we'll go up, you will find it, we don't have any database name as a dev db. But here in the application.properties file for the dev, you can see we are using database as a dev db. So we have to create that database in order to this application to be connected with that particular database, how we have created for the user db, right? So copy this name and come here to the mysql, click on this database and then provide your database name which is devdb and apply it here. Now finish it. Now if we'll go up, here you can see the dev DB is created. Inside the dev DB we don't have any tables created as of now. Now if we'll go to the application again, and here you can see in the application properties files we have provided the active profile as dev. It will come here to the dev.properties file, and it will see that this database is being used. It will go to the MySQL, it will search for that database, and inside the database it will create the table for us. Okay, so like the username and the password for MySQL for me is the same, so that is why I'm not going to change the username and password. In the real development, the username and password for the others environments is also different, so they can like update according to the environment that you are using. For me it is same, so I'm just keeping it as of now. Only the thing I have changed is the database name to show you how the configuration for the different environment can be. Okay, so we are good now. Now let me try to run this application and try to see. So here you can see this query is being fired. That means the table would be created inside the dev DB. If you'll come here to the dev DB and if you'll refresh it, you will see inside this dev DB, inside the tables, the user table is created. Okay, now you can run this as well, and you can see as of now there is nothing inside it. So that means our profile is working fine. In the application properties files, we have made our Spring profiles active as dev. It is going to the dev DB, and inside the dev DB we have the tables created. Okay, that means this Spring active profile is working fine, and this is how we can switch to the different environment. Now let me try to show you some other things as well. If you'll scroll in the console, let me try to maximize it for you. Here you can see on the second line you can see this, the following one profile is active, which is div. So it is picking up that profile that we have provided here in the application.properties files, which was div, and in the console this is Spring Boot is logging that the active profile is div. Okay, so our active profile is dev. It is going to the dev properties files. It is picking all the configuration related to the database from the dev properties files and connecting to the particular database. So this is how you can select a particular environment. Now if you want to select the prod, what do you have to you have to come here to the application properties files. Only you have to provide the prod here. Okay, similarly for the queue you have to provide the queue. Make sure that in the prod you have provided the DB name as a prod DB. So you have to create this prod DB in the MySQL. So let me try to create it first for you. So go to the MySQL, go to this create DB, paste your DB name, apply, and then apply, finish. If you want to see, you can scroll down and see. You can see this prod DB is created. Similarly, let me try to create for the QADB. So go to the QA properties files. Here you can see the database name that we have provided here is QADB. Copy this QADB and come here to the MySQL and create the QADB. Apply here, apply, finish. Now, if you want to see, if you have to go down, right? Here you can see the QADB is also created. So now what you can do, going to the application properties file, you can switch between the environments. There is another way to select this particular environment when you are making your application up and running. Now here you can see this option of run and debug configuration. You have to select this. You have to go to the edit configuration, and here you will find this tab, or you can say features of active profiles. So directly here also you can provide your profiles that you want to select or that you want to make active. So let's say this time we want to make our prod environment active. So you can provide the prod here and then you have to apply and you have to OK. Now you have to remove this configuration from here. So let me try to comment it out from the application properties file. So what it will do, when you will make your application up and running, it will go to the edit configuration, and here you can see the option of active profiles. From this active profiles, it will see which profile to make active at that time when the application is up and running. So it will select this prod, and then you can here also you can come and see that this time the prod is active, and we can also verify it from going to the database, and we'll go to this prod db, and then inside the table we'll see if the table is created or not. Let me try to refresh it and then show you. As of now we don't have anything inside the table. So let me try to make this application up. So make it up and running and just wait for a few seconds. So again you can see this create table query is fired, and if you'll come here to the console, you can see this time the active profile is prod. Now the time to go to the database and check it in the database. So select this db, refresh it, and if you'll go inside the table, you can see this user table is created. So that means the both of the option is working fine. Either you can go to the application properties files and you can use this spring.profiles.active, and then you have to provide the environment that you want to select, or you can go to this run or debug configuration, go to the edit configuration, and inside the active profiles you can provide your profile. Okay, so this is how you can select the particular profile in the Spring Boot application, or you can say this is how you can switch over the multiples environment over the in the Spring Boot application. Okay, now if we'll go to the PPT, we have discussed about what is Spring Profiles and why we are using it and how we are using it. We have in the practical implementation we have seen this. Now time to see how to set the active profile. So I already have shown you two ways. One is either using the application.property file configuration, and the second was through the IntelliJ run and debug configuration. So how to set the active profiles, it is also being discussed now. Now the third or the final thing that we are going to discuss here is how to use the Spring active profiles in the Java classes. Before that, let me try to give you one scenario where we can need Spring active profiles in the Java classes. Okay, so let me try to go to the application, and let's say this application is using couple of third-party APIs. Okay, or let's say it is using one third-party API. So how you can integrate that third-party API for the different environments, and also make sure that that third-party API that you are going to use is different for the different environments. Then how you can deal with that? Okay, so let's say the third party API that you are going to use is different for the dev environment. Similarly, that third party API is different for the prod environment, and it is different for the QA environment. What I mean to say when I'm telling that the third party API is different for the different environment is their URL can be different for the different environments. Let's say for the dev, the URL for the third party API is something like dev.com. Okay, similarly for the QA or prod, it is prod.com. Let's say it is prod.com. For the QA, the URL of third party API is qa.com. So how you can deal with it, and you want to use this third party API in your Java classes. Okay, so how you can use that? So we need we need to log that particular environment which is active. Based upon that active environment, what we can do, we can fetch out the URL. So let's say this time the dev environment is active, then we can directly access this URL of the dev and then use it wherever we want in the Java classes. Similarly, if the active environment is prod, we can access this URL from the prod properties files and then use it wherever we want to use in the Java classes. Similarly for the QA. But how we can see or how we can log that particular active environment, that is a question. How we can do that? So there comes the picture of these two options. One is the environment and the second is Spring Active Profile or Spring Profile Active. Both of them can help you logging out the active profile. So as of now, what we were able to see is in the console we were able to see that which profile is active, but we were not able to log it in the Java classes. But how we can do that, and based upon that we can create a scenario where we can use couple of configurations from the application properties files in the real Java classes. That is what we are going to do now. So first of all, let me try to show you the environment scenario. So let me try to go to the main class here, and or what you can do, you can go to the user controller and let me try to create one separate API here. Okay, so let's say it is get mapping. While hitting this API, I just want to log or print the URL that we are going to access from the particular environment. Okay, so let me try to do that. So here let's say it is get, and it is something like public void, and let's say get. We are not passing anything here, we are simply logging out something here. I will try to show you those things. Okay, so as of now let me try to run this application and then see which environment is active. And based upon that active environment, we want to fetch out the third party API from that particular active environment properties file. That is what we are going to do in the Java classes. So as of now, you can see the prod environment is active. Now we can only see that particular environment is active in the console file, but how we can use that particular environment in this Java classes, or how we can log that in the Java classes, and based upon that, if you want to do something, how you can do that. That is what we are going to discuss here. So I told you about the environment, right? So let me try to use that environment here, or yeah, let me try to create an instance of that environment here. So it is environment. Make sure that you are selecting the correct environment. The environment should be coming from the Spring Framework .core.env. So select that and let's say it is environment. Okay. Now we have this environment. It will tell you which environment is active as of now. So come here and let me try to print it out. So first of all, you have to use this environment, and then there is a method called get active profiles. You have to select it, and if you want to print it out, you can directly print it. Let me try to see. Yes. So when we are going to hit this API, it is going to print the active environment or active profile. So let me try to run this application and try to see. Once you are able to get the active environment in the Java classes, based upon that you can make couple of decisions, and if you want to retrieve something for that particular environment, you can do that. So our application is up and the API that we have created is get. So go to the Postman or anywhere you can go. So it is API/get and it is get one. Hit it. Now come here to the application properties file, and here you can see we are getting this environment is null. Okay, let me try to auto wire it, and now let me try to rerun this again. Our application is up, and let me try to hit it and come here, and you can see we are getting something. This is Java object. Okay, so this environment is returning a list like array of a string. So you have to fetch it like that, str or something like environment. Let me try to remove this, and now let me try to use a for loop to print out the environment. Sout env1. Now let me try to run this. Yeah, our application is up. Hit this again and come here, and here you can see the active environment is prod. So now you are able to access your active environment in the Java classes. Based upon this, what you can do, you can make couple of decisions. Now let's say if the active environment is prod, then you want to trigger some feature, then you can do that. If the active environment is q and prod, then you want to do some couple of other tasks, then you can do that. So based upon that active environment, you can create your own scenario and write down your code according to the scenario that you want to write, right? So you can do that. Once you are able to access the active environment in your Java classes, you can write the codes. Okay, this is what I just want to explain you about the active environments. And now the other way to access the active environment is through the spring profiles.active. So either using the environment, you can do that, and the other way was through the spring profiles.active. Okay, so there is a through the value you can get the value of active profiles, and you have to provide like dollar, and then you have to provide the spring dot profiles. This was the configuration that we were doing in the application.properties file to select the particular environment, right? So spring.profiles.active, and let's say you are going to create one variable here which is of a string type, active profile, something like that. And now let me try to log it here so that you can see. So yeah, let it be this thing, and after the for loop, let me try to log it here. So system.out, and then let's say the active profile. So let's say active profile is something like that. Okay, now let me try to again run this. Okay, our application is up. Go to the postman and try to hit it again. Come here to the application and go to the console and then see. Now you can see the first one is through the environment we are getting the active profile, and then the second way was to get the active profile is through the spring.profiles.active. So both of them are working fine. Now my intention to show you how to access the active profile in the Java classes is because in the real world development you come across couple of scenario where you want to select some particular thing or you want to do some particular thing based upon the active environment. So this is how you can access the active environment, and then based upon that you can make your own decision. Okay, so this is about the video, guys. If you like the video, please hit the like button and please subscribe the channel for more such content. Thanks.